Mr. Walton, did you make contact with aliens? Were you taken to another planet, to a mothership? How did they communicate with... Can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food?
But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
What a strange person.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
Do you not know all the answers to the questions about reality? Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden. As a part of a family and explorers of consciousness. I'm the void.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
We're all broadcasting live upstate New York near the Great Lakes. It's Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. We're live on KTLK Digital Broadcasting, the Fringe FM. Better yet, Fringe.fm. And it's getting quite fringy out there now, isn't it? You know, I was going to make light of all this. A lot of people are saying, everything's going to hell in a handbasket. The world's ending. Anyways, we'll talk about the crazy day. But look, if you're listening to the show for the first time, the show broadcasts everything about weird, strange, just about everything when it comes to Fringe. But our favorite subjects here are the metaphysical, consciousness, conscious exploration, the human potential, and more. Broadcasting here Monday through Friday night, 5 nights a week, live. We have calls, unscreened calls. The only thing I got to protect is a red button here. And we also have a really cool chat room. You can join if you go to thefringe.fm/chat room. Join our Discord server. If you want to support the show, make sure you go to lightingthevoid.com and join our patrons, the people that make this show happen, as well as donate to the broadcast. Now, I don't want to jump right into the politics here, but I got to say, man, this is a historical day. I've been waiting for this, and I know you guys are going to think I'm crazy, right? I don't really care, regardless, how it happened and what side it happened for or anything like that. And I don't ever want anybody to get hurt when it comes to this stuff, which happened, you know. We should be able to protest without people getting hurt. And it's very unfortunate that it happened, actually. However, I think all of us, and you can get mad at me for saying this if you want, I think all of us saw this coming a long time ago. They were actually doing the votes in Congress. I don't know if it was live or replay, but I was watching it, and a couple of representatives, especially from Georgia, stood up and said that they protested some of this stuff because they believe fraud happened. And when your votes don't count, folks, or you start to feel like your votes don't count, even though, most of you that I've talked to really feel like your votes don't count anyways, people are starting to get a little crazy. You can't. This is all to me I know we're all labeled super conspiracy people right now, and we're the nutcases of the world. But when you lock people up in their homes, tell them to put on masks and all this stuff and keep them embedded into their homes for so long, and then you got all this voter fraud kind of stuff going on, whether it's true or not, with all this crazy stuff. All I'm saying is, I'm not taking sides. Don't put me in your polar atmosphere of politics, because I don't want nothing to do with it. All I'm saying is psychologically, people they have a line, man. They're going to pop. And whether, people are burning buildings down in the street or raiding Capitol buildings, which, by the way, they're doing that all over. It wasn't just in certain states. I mean, there were, Washington, Texas, California, Michigan, Georgia, Oregon, and Kansas state capitals all have been surrounded. Yeah. I mean, people are going to pop. And when people pop and when they mob up and get into groups, they do stupid stuff. I mean, we've all been to concerts. We've all been to places where mobs were around. So I think the most brilliant thing I saw in chat today was by Amandala, because everybody was talking about behavior sciences. And she put in there, it was pretty hilarious. She put in there, democracy is a shield to keep people compliant, polarized enough to not come together and give them just the right amount of hope to think their voice matters so they don't do anything about it. So it's kind of like the suggestion box at work. It was invented to make employees feel like they matter so they would stop demanding better wages and work conditions. And basically, that's kind of what's going on with us. So yeah, I've heard both sides today. I've heard how these people are terrorists. I've heard other people call these people patriots. Here's the truth. Whether you have liberal people bombing stuff and burning things down in the street, or conservative, whatever you want to call them, people mobbing Capitol buildings, regardless, all of this happened for psychological reasons. You don't think these people are smart enough to know how to get us stir crazy, how to make us crazy? They definitely are. And this is why I've always talked about expanding your consciousness is the most important thing. It's the most important thing. It's the tool that you have to combat any of this. It's the one tool that you have to keep you from, doing what mobs do, or making decisions based on peer pressure or polar red and blue bull crap. I'm not going to lie to you. We're in an era of talk radio where it's mainly just politics. It's very controversial. We could blow the phone lines up all night if we talked about politics. It's kind of hard to do it when we're telling people to be more consciously aware of what's going on. And now there's a war on COVID that's coming down the line. I'm in New York State. I got to get the hell out of here. If you've seen some of the laws that they're making, that they're about to come down the pipe in this place, they would consider me probably just a walking criminal. And I was talking to Darren from Grimerica, and he was telling me about a law where if I broke, I think it was contact trace policy or something like that, they could just lock me up for 60 days. More government, and I'm talking about government, and I'm not taking sides here. I'm just telling you what's happening, okay? I can see it on both sides, so don't. Nationalism, globalism, whatever you want to call it, it's all crap to me, right? So here's the thing. More government is coming down the line like you've never seen in your entire life. Not since World War II. We're going to be forced into a lot of things. Or we can break away. I'm just saying it's coming. But don't act all surprised. I mean, we knew this was going to happen. And I don't think, I think maybe Jeff is right when I'm looking at the astrology and stuff, probably about spring, things might start settling down when enough sheeple, get vaccinated. And enough people decide that they have to choke on the president that they're given and the whatever's going on with the government. And that's it. That's what's going to happen. And then the smart cities are going to move in. All the corporations that are behind tech and pharma are going to build their cities, and they're going to turn them into a digital playground of data mining, while the rest of us are going to have to survive or take the vaccine. That's what's coming down. Not much you can do about it, right? So if you learn how to survive on your own, and if you learn how to expand your consciousness, I know it sounds cliche, but you'll be able to make check this out, ready? Your own decisions based on your own mind, your own individual thoughts. I'm not saying don't take advice. I'm not saying don't listen to people. I'm just saying, aren't you tired of being influenced subconsciously? That's what happens when you react emotionally and irrationally, is because you are not in control of your own conscious. And it's really cool because tonight we're going to talk about how to expand that, even through practices of altered states, sensory deprivation. And our guest tonight, Sean McCormick, is coming up. He's going to talk to us about that. He's a life coach, but he also has quite a bit of knowledge when it comes to these things. I think it's important that we learn how to do that. Not just jump to every conspiracy too, really just, you have to think outside the box. You have to see both sides of everything. I don't know. I really don't think our government works anymore, right? This isn't one of those things where I'm thinking, well, it might work. No, it doesn't work anymore. It's just a country run by corporations with a bunch of people in ties acting like they care about your well-being to get their agendas down. That's all it is. And if these some bitches went up to the podiums or went to their little Congress meetings every day and wore suits like the NASCAR drivers did with all their little sponsors on their suits instead of the pretty little ties that, they try to intimidate you with, you would see what's really going on. And the funny thing about it is the people that are even richer than that, they're just printing more money. They don't have to play the money game. All they got to do is print it for us. Just print it. We can suffer. They can just print more just to keep the economy going. So I could turn into another radio broadcast that just talks and complains about the politics and how bad everything is and how crappy the world's going to be and how dark and sinister everything's going to get. But I really don't think that's the way it has to be. In fact, I don't mind breaking away if I have to. I feel like most of us, this quarantine thing is probably going to backfire on them, because most of us that don't panic, that have to deal with our own selves, that have been alone, don't mind being alone, actually enjoy our alone time. I don't like being alone, but I can enjoy it. I can survive, I can hunt, I can fish, I can grow a garden. I've got survival skills, I've got construction skills, I can fix my own car. And by God, I got Google if I need it. I thank God for the redneck raising that I had, and there's rednecks all over, not just in the South. You're going to be okay. And the more that people actually come together and work together, instead of, this survival thing where you just got to only take care of yourself and every man for himself. That's what they want you to do, man. They want you to go crazy. Yes, so tell us how sinister it's going to be. Well, it's as sinister as you make it in your mind. But I still have the belief, like the book of Ecclesiastes says, there's nothing new under the sun. Different dynasty, different day. Different dynasty, different era. It's the same thing. The planets are moving. all the celestial bodies are moving, the same stories are playing out. The characters may be different. They may wear different clothes. The street signs may be different each lifetime, but it's the same thing. You're here to grow your soul and your consciousness and your energetic body. You're here to become something else. But when you get caught up in all this principality stuff, and yeah, you have to live in the world, but you don't have to be a slave to it. There's a guy that I really admire, and I know some people are like, oh my God, you admire that guy, but Damian Nichols, right? Damian Nichols, he was one of the West Memphis Three. That was one of the first guys that walked out of prison. He walked out of there after he was condemned pretty much to die to the electric chair, which had never been done before. I mean, once you've been prosecuted, locked up, you're on death row and all that stuff, like you're in your little cell up there, you're done. But Damian Nichols went to the library while he was locked up. I really want to talk to this guy. You got to check out his story. Probably in one of the worst conditions anybody could be in, and started studying magic, specifically angelic and golden dawn magic. It doesn't really matter if you believe in magic. There's some psychological principles behind it too. And then proceeded to manifest his way out of prison. Now, he knew that he was innocent. Even though some of the evidence was stacked against him, he knew he was innocent, and started to make his own little magical tower in there. And guess what? He's like the first guy to ever walk out on death row, to be released. Now, granted, he had to sign a fact that he admitted his guilt, so the state couldn't come, I guess so he couldn't sue the state or whatever, but he managed to do that. Now, you can call that magic or whatever, but what I'm saying is the guy used his consciousness to create a reality that most people thought was dire and dark and sinister. And you don't get much more dark and dire and sinister than locked up in a jail cell waiting to die. So what I'm telling you guys is I still believe, even with all this stuff going down, I still believe that we have the power to change all this. We just have to wake up. We have to use our consciousness. We have to use our awareness. Nothing's going to last, I don't know what the heck we're holding on to. Everything ends. Everything ends. Your life, this planet, everything ends. So really, probably you need to start asking yourself, why are you really here? Everything changes, everything ends. Look, we're goners in like 1 to 4 billion years. Not saying that you can't live that long, but you're gonna cycle and go through lives and stuff. This place is gonna go bye-bye. It's closer now, or at least much closer, according to research and the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society. The prevailing view has been that our Milky Way would crash into its neighboring galaxy sometime between 6 and 8 billion years from now. But the latest research suggests that there's a good chance the Milky Way may instead crash into the large Magellanic Cloud in only 1 to 4 billion years from now. Like, who cares though, right? What I'm saying is everything in the universe cycles. We can see it in space. Our lives cycle. There really is nothing new under the sun. So when the media turns your focus to something and your energy towards something, that's what your reality becomes. Your reality specifically, we all should know this by now, turns into what your mind focuses on, what your energy goes towards. So what better to do than put a bunch of screens and TVs in our face, get us all riled up, and now we got people storming buildings and not too long ago burning stuff in the street. I mean, are we that programmable? And a lot of these people walk around and think they're smarter than most. Everybody that's walking around thinks they're better than other people in some form or fashion. They're smarter, they're nicer, they're more spiritual. Other people don't get me. Everybody has their own little tower point of view. And yet when they all get into a group, they turn into imbeciles. I don't know. It's trippy. It's really trippy. I think we have to start making our own decisions. We have to start doing things for ourselves. And we do that by increasing our consciousness, period. So how do we do that? You don't have to use magic. How can we access altered states of consciousness through the body? How do we turn our physical senses off and really get inside our consciousness in our mind and turn on our metaphysical awareness? How do we tap into that? And once you do start tapping into that, and I can tell you for sure that this happens, you will run into like crazy things, even entities. Not saying they're real. I'm not saying they're not in your mind. Carl Jung, if you want to read Carl Jung and go down that road, you can. But there's a whole nother world in there that's trying to get you to wake up. But there has to be also a balance of living on the earth, because this is something I learned too, the hard way. There has to be a balance of living on the earth while you explore consciousness too. You can have both, and you can have good times in both, but you're going to go through some spiritual initiations or whatever if you don't believe in spirituality. Initiations of some type, I can say that. So we're going to talk about this with our guest coming up, Sean McCormick. Someone's calling in. We'll take this phone call and then we'll go to break. Looks like 703 area code. You're on the air. Who are you speaking with? Hello. Bing, gone. Sat there and waited for me to take the call and then hung up. Well, there you go. See, my point exactly. How conscious was that? All right. We'll be right back. More Lighting the Void coming up. We're going to get down and dirty. We're going to talk about altered states of consciousness, how to wake ourselves up and tap into the human potential. That's what we're here to do. That's what this show is here to do anyways. Stay with us.
Talk radio, then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The truth is out there, and so are we. KTLK, Digital Broadcasting, the Fringe FM.
Want to support Lighting the Void? Just go to lightingthevoid.com, sign up on our membership page and pick your package where you can get exclusive content, readings, and exclusive behind-the-scenes content. Also, check out the LTV shop where you can get your very own altar box, t-shirt, shack, hoodie with sigil, Roswell-style t-shirt, racerback tees, socks, long-sleeve shirts, stickers, and beanies. Keep Lighting the Void airing 5 nights a week by going to lightingthevoid.com and support today.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
Lighting the Void and the Esoteric Scholar present the Altar Box, crafted and designed for magicians by magicians. Now you can take your practice with you. This beautifully handcrafted mobile altar opens and works as an altar for any of your spiritual, religious, or ritual practices. Made to travel and work in small spaces, the Altar Box comes with hidden compartments for your practice tools and accessories. The Altar Box also comes with a dark scrying mirror for scrying and reverses and fits perfectly also as a chalkboard for any sigil, symbol, or whatever you see fit to sketch. The Altar Box is handcrafted to carry as a small suitcase, so you may take your practice with you, and the hinges are made with solid material and hinged with leather and rivets for extra strength. The mirror piece and floor plate fit perfectly when closed, so no movement will happen. Use it in small places as well. You can practice meditation, magic, planetary magic, sigil magic, scrying, ritual. Never be without your practice tools again, no matter the setting or where you go. And this season, give the gift of magic for yourself or your loved one by grabbing your Altar Box. Was $249.99, now $199.99. The sale ends January 1st, 2021. Just go to lightingthevoid.com/altarbox and get yours while the sale lasts.
I don't know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I am a void walker. Hey, this is Macon, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Root.
All right. Welcome back to Lighting the Void. Sorry, we had a little system crash there, man. See what happens when you start talking about the government? But that's cool. Our guest is really cool. He is patient with me. He's waiting on us right now. We're going to bring him on. Sean McCormick, a life coach, also dad and podcaster based in Seattle, Washington. And he opened the West Coast highest rated float tank center. It's called Float Seattle in 2012. And then Float Bellevue in 2014, and is passionate about mindful states of consciousness. As an experienced mediator and disciplined sensory deprivation tank user, also known as a floater, he likes to share his proven skills and practices for personal enrichment, career development, and expanded consciousness. And dude, it's really good to have you on the show. Thanks for being patient with me. Sorry about that little tech hiccup there, brother.
It's all good. You know, there's a lot of things that can go right. There's a couple of things that can go wrong when you're running the show, man. It's all good.
Yeah. It just crashed on me. Like I was over here trying to change the cart racks in the system, and then next thing I know, the mouse froze up. But yeah. So look, I've got to float in a tank one time, and I'm all about expanding consciousness and like studying the metaphysical realms, and really like the biggest thing I'm about is I would say the human potential, right? Like that's, to me, is I don't even think we've gotten close to what we're capable of. And so I even thought about running my own float business back in the day. I think everybody thought about it, but you actually did it. So how did it blow up after you I mean, how did it take off from there?
Yeah, it did. I mean, when we opened in 2012, there was 35 float centers in the country, and now there's 800. So we were, the Joe Rogan effect is very real. When Rogan talks about, taking edibles and eating mushrooms and jumping into a float tank, talks about it frequently enough, people are going to catch on. And I mean, it took off right away, and it married really a bunch of the things that I love most, which is weird sort of fringe practices of consciousness and helping people and providing them with an experience that they will never forget. Everybody remembers their first float, and for me to be able to cultivate a business like that to help people like blow their own minds, it was the perfect thing for me.
How long does it take in a tank? Because when I went to Hot Springs, Arkansas, and did it, and the tanks there, they were like kind of, I don't know, they were kind of open. It wasn't what I expected, not what I seen. Like I've seen some tanks that were like dark and kind of like vessels that you lay in. These were kind of open. It didn't feel like the same thing. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be dark, isn't it? Like where you can't see anything.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
For sure.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So I didn't get the experience.
Yeah, you got to go back. You got to go do it again. There's a couple of places in New York. I know a couple of a friend of mine owns a couple of float centers. She's in Manhattan. Lift is the name of her float centers, and there's a couple of other ones that are a little further up. But yeah, I mean, the experience is sensory deprivation. It's as close to no external stimuli as possible. So, you didn't quite get the full experience. And I always suggest people that they try it 3 times before they really kind of understand the depth, because, consciousness is infinite. And when you can tap into the depth of your own brain naturally, quietly by yourself, naked, floating like a little, a baby in amniotic fluid, connecting with the infinite. That's pretty good. That's good stuff.
I bet. So yeah, 'cause I'm a water baby myself. I love the water. So, do you have like real psychedelic experiences in there, like Rogan talks about?
Yeah, I do. I wanted to see how far I could take it. The longest float that I did was 9.5 hours.
Whoa.
Which was something. It was really something. I floated 100 days in a row. I floated, both, cannabis a bunch. This is around the time when cannabis became medicinally legal here in Washington State, and then recreationally legal. So, lots of edibles, lots of cannabis, mushrooms a couple of times, acid a couple of times. There's nothing quite like it. And the dude who actually who invented the float tanks was a tripper himself, John Lilly, who, I don't know if you're familiar with the work of John Lilly, but he was like talking to dolphins. He was giving dolphins acid and like talking to them. So the origin of, So the origin of the creation of this technology was from a guy who's just way ahead of his time, and he would do intramuscular ketamine injections before jumping into the tank, jumping into K-holes, and then he kind of lost it a little bit. I mean, towards the end of his life, he was preferring ketamine in a float tank to normal life. So he kind of went over the edge a little bit, but that's a trip right there. Well, the only people that I've talked to that have actually done ketamine have really physically told me they went out of their body. Even it was like during a surgery too, and said that they saw someone like putting their arm back together and everything while they were on ketamine. So that tells you right there that our consciousness kind of like moves around, right? Yeah.
I don't claim to know everything about consciousness, Sean. I really don't, but I got to think.
I don't either.
That floating in a tank for 9.5 hours. Now, were you totally like, when I say sober, don't take that wrong, but were you sober? Like,
yeah.
And okay.
I wanted to be. I wanted to make sure that I was, present. So what I did was, slam my computer. What I did was, I went in at 8:00 at night. I took a big nap that day so that I wasn't super tired because I didn't want to sleep in there necessarily. Your body's primed through circadian rhythms to fall asleep at night, but I didn't want to sleep through the tank, through the experience. So, I was in and out of meditation, in and out of hallucination, in and out of reverie. I was whacked out. Afterward, I was kind of shook for a day or two afterward because I was just so I was just wrung out.
So
after being there for such a long time.
This is what I was trying to explain before we came on the broadcast is, you've seen everything happen in the news today. You can see like how we are as a society, like how we can get programmed easily. Our subconsciouses can get triggered. Our emotions can get triggered. We can rally up easily. I mean, if you ever been to a rave party, you can see how tribal people can get, right? And so there's definitely like this unified field of consciousness. But it's fascinating to me. Sometimes when we get tribal, I think sometimes we get like a little too influenced, or it's almost like you lose your individuality in a sense, right?
Yeah.
But when you're in a tank by yourself, right, and you're just exploring yourself individually, I have to think that is probably one of the trippiest things ever, because the mind can start playing tricks on you, I'm sure, after a while, can it?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, even if you're going in stone sober, no weed, it's really common, especially here in Washington. People, smoke a little bit or eat a little bit of edible before jumping in. But my best floats have been after exercise, fasted. I do all sorts of different things in the tank too. So, tapping into, I do a lot of spirit guide work. I do a lot of my spiritual practice when I was floating really regularly. I've got over, close to 700 hours. I kind of stopped counting, but 700 hours in the float tank. And the range of experiences that I've had have ranged from, communion with non-physical entities, spirit guides, gray aliens. For a long time, some of the most profound work that I've done in the float tank was I taught myself. I read a book and I practiced really hard to project out of my body. So I was doing astral projection with recall pretty reliably in the float tank for the span of about 18 months. So I was doing it really, really regularly, and I was able to project out of my body and have these experiences in the astral plane, and then pop back into my body, and there I am in the float tank. To your point, even when you are by yourself having this deeply intimate experience, there is still this interconnectedness that you feel. There's this sort of Jungian, uber mind, this, collective unconscious that you really do tap into. Like, oh man, I'm connected to all these people. I'm connected to these versions of myself. I'm connected to everything all at once. And that sort of like samadhi, that elevated state of consciousness, lots of people talk about in the float tank.
You've reached one of those states of enlightenment where you probably figured out the universe a couple of times, right? Where you're like, wait a minute, I get it now, I think. And then it goes away. Like, you know what I mean? That happens.
Just when I think I've got it.
Right. But so how has it influenced your life in a way? I'm curious how it's influenced your life practically, right? Like, how has it helped your life practically doing these things?
Well, I do some of my best work in there, some of my best thinking. I do manifestation and visualizations into my future in there. I came to understand that part of my path forward was to be a life coach and a podcaster. And the story goes, I went into my float tank. I do my thing. I have a sort of like a ceremony that I do before I get in. And I laid back and I just asked this deep question: what's next for me in my life? Yeah. What's next for me? connecting with my guides. I do this thing with limitless light, love, and truth. I wish to connect with my guides. Are you there? What do I need to know? And I sort of begin this connection. And I asked, what's next for me in my life? And sure as shit, I hear, you'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah, right. That's what? You heard it audibly?
Audibly. Yeah. Like someone's in there with me. And that was the first, that was probably 200 floats in. I was no stranger to that state, but I'd never heard that before. And I was like, whoa, fuck. Okay. All right. I guess I'll just sit with that.
Yeah.
And then the next day, the very next day, my sister-in-law says, hey, Sean, I'm going to go down and get my life coaching certification down in Mexico. It's something I thought of you. I think you'd be good at. You should go check it out. Here it is. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like pretty random. Okay. I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. I never really thought about that. I don't even know what a life coach does. And then a couple hours later, I'm talking to my wife, and she's telling me about one of her friend and coworkers that's like she got a raise, and she's going back to graduate school, and she's making all these major advancements in her life. And I was like, well, what's Anna doing? Well, how is it that she's just like crushing it right now? And she's like, well, she hired a life coach. And I go, oh, she hired a life coach. You say a life coach?
Yeah. Well, when you hear that, you hear like, oh, a life coach, man. Like, what is that? Like a lot of people are doing that, right? So, but
right.
I think that's great, man. I think, look, you take someone that's expanded their consciousness, right? Wouldn't you want that person on your side? Like, wouldn't you want that person trying to help you out? I think, especially if you've never done it,
Well, just for anything, to your question, like how's it helped me practically in my life? It's helped me get clarity. It's helped me learn lessons about myself. It's helped me face certain darkness and shadow work that I have to do, that I need to do in order to continue to grow. And because I've done that work, and I've done a lot of psychedelic work, and I've done a lot of ayahuasca, and I've done a lot of psilocybin, and I meditate, and I do all these professional development techniques kind of all the time. I'm constantly working on myself, and I run this giant podcast that's all about like performance and optimizing the self. I've got lots of tools, lots of ideas, and even the term life coach is a little, I don't love it, because it's like it seems so like namby-pamby. But what it is like, if like your best friend, the friend that you go to was like, man, that guy's got it on the ball. He's got lots of good ideas. He always thinks really clearly. He's got some, maybe he can help me. You go to that guy or girl, and you're like, hey, like I want to talk about a couple of things. And then you leave and you feel better. You feel charged up. You feel clear. You feel more focused.
Yeah, because you connected with somebody, man. Like, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's I'm that guy. I've been that guy for my friends growing up. I was that guy for my friends in college and after college and in my adult life. And now I just, I do it formally, and I work with lots and lots of different people from all different walks of life. And partly because I'm constantly working on myself, but also because I have all of these tools and techniques and, neurolinguistic programming and, tapping and these exercises that will help people. And so, any sort of work that you're doing on yourself, meditation, prayer, fasting, journaling, exercise, doing that work makes you a better person and makes you more able to help the people around you. And that's what really matters.
Wow. See, and you know what? Like if I was going to hire a life coach, the first thing I would ask is to be like, how many psychedelics have they taken in their life? Right? Like, because the first time I did psychedelics or had an expanded, event of consciousness like that, it changed me completely. You wouldn't think that something like that would change you completely. When I say completely, I don't mean like I'm an entirely different person, but I was not the same person. I think, as a matter of fact, the first time I had a psychedelic experience was at a rave party, and it was the first time that I actually felt connected to everybody, right? Like I could see it, I could feel it, and I had one of those moments like you were talking about where you're like, whoa, I just figured everything out for a second, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, it was like I wasn't even the same person. I couldn't I used to be like, yeah, this is what I believe, this is what I know, this is how things are, and full of ego and everything, and it just chipped that away, just right?
Yeah.
And it does that.
There's a version of you up until that moment, And then there's a version of you after that. You know, you can't unknow, you can't unexperience that experience. You know, there's a chemical explanation for what that's done to your brain, right? It's, you know, it's created new neural pathways, whether you're on MDMA or mushrooms or whatever. Like, it's created new actual neuron connections inside your brain. There's also the spiritual element of it, depending on what you had or what you're on. Maybe you open up your heart chakra. Maybe you open up your third eye. Maybe you decalcified your pineal gland. Maybe you tapped into something that was already inside of you. Yeah. But that subtle shift, that subtle change allowed you to tap into that piece of that part of you that was previously unexplored. And then the key is, then what? How do we do it again? How do we shift that again? How do we keep growing? How do we learn more about ourselves? Again, like, it's the self-exploration is great, but what do you do to your community? You know, you're doing hard work every day, every week to have interesting conversations, to facilitate growth, to expand people, to teach, to show, to facilitate. Like, that work is important, and how you affect your community is important. And the more you can work on yourself to be better at what you do, to be more available, that's a good thing. And we you know, look to people to help us, you know, walk down that path.
Man, you're so spot on with that too. So literally spot on. I took a vacation here recently, right? Just kind of escape from the world. And, you know, it's funny because I lost some supporters when I did that, because I'm so used to being like there every day, right? And I think some people, they get that attachment to you. They're like, well, what, you know, like, you're their best friend at night, you know? Mm-hmm. And I take that seriously sometimes, man, because people need that. There's somebody somewhere, you know, like, that doesn't get to talk to anybody or is not understood at all and listens to this show, or you or somebody, right? And it's like, hey, that person gets me, you know? And then when you disappear, they kind of get upset, right? So I get it.
Sure.
I totally get it.
Yeah, well, and that's okay, you know, like that's I mean, you have to take care of you, and that connection, you could call it attachment, but you could also call it connection that they have with you. If when that's taken away and they feel this void that was like really nourishing for them, and then suddenly they feel like animosity, or they drop off, or they feel like, meh, like, that's work that they need to do for themselves.
Yeah,
like they have work to do. They need to, and I've got lots of ideas on things that they could do to explore themselves a little bit more deeply, to figure out, like, well, why did that happen? Like, why is it shifted?
Yeah, I mean, I've had people do that. I've had them leave and then come back later, and it did wake them up, right? Because they're like, I was totally in my own stuff when I left, and then like write me a big email about it. And I'm like, wow, no, this is cool. Like, at least people are waking up this way too, just based on the relationship that we have, you know, with each other at night and stuff, like just the show. But yeah, we got to take our top of the hour break, but I want to get into like these fundamental questions that that I was talking about before I brought you on. And then we can open up the phone lines too. And you guys, if you want to, it's 1-800-588-0335. Also, you can go to his website at SeanMcCormick.com, and that's spelled SeanMcCormick, SeanMcCormick.com. I'll put that link in the chat room too, so you can hook up with this guy, because like, if you want a life coach, when you want somebody that's like been floating around and like expanding their awareness, that's who you want to talk to, and for real. All right, so we'll be right back. You guys call in.
Hey, this is No Way Jose, a Northern California Piscean stuck in the Arizona desert. I'm a void walker, and I got the shoes to prove it. So what do I do when my soul yearns to delve deep into the realm of the unknown? I aim my satellite straight into the night sky and catch a smooth ride on the KTLK-DB radio waves. I tune into Lighting the Void with Joe Root on the Fringe FM.
Joe, Lighting the Void is the best show on the planet. This is Barney, your friend from Facebook. Thank you and all the crew for all you do. Namaste, my friend.
This is Macon from the foothills of North Carolina, and I am a void walker.
G'day, void walkers. This is Lily from down under Australia. The world may be small, the enigma is greater. So let your curiosity take you for a journey with Joe Root.
Hey, this is Fee, coming in from Central Maryland, and I am a void walker.
This is Kevin Doherty, a beginner void walker. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I know a little about a lot, and as Leonard Skinner said, I'll guess the rest. I learned a lot from Mr. Root in the show, and I heard it from the beginning. I knew right then he was going to be a new art pal. Thanks for all your shows, and keep it up.
Hey, this is Derek from Mass, aka the Night Stalker, and I'm a void walker.
This is Mark from Chicago, and I walk the void to ascertain what is consciousness.
My name is Jared Johnson, and I'm from Humboldt County, California. I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm a void walker. Thanks, Joe Root.
This is Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archaeology. If you've ever had a traumatic paranormal experience, the effects of it may stay with you for years. Who do you talk to? You can't go to conventional help. What we do is we use emotional freedom techniques or tapping to actually neutralize the effects of that event. Maybe when you tell the story now, your heart races and your palms get sweaty. You don't even want to think about it because you don't know how to neutralize that. That's what EFT tapping does. It neutralizes those emotions. The circuit that was recorded on is gone. The energy flows freely and you're free of it. And that's what emotional freedom is all about. We offer this as a pro bono service, but this is something that I offer because no one, it seems, is helping people with these experiences. If you'd like to reach me, it's really easy. My cell phone is 214-995-3754. Please leave a message. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can email me, barb.eft@gmail.com. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. Reach out to me. It's confidential. This works. You won't believe the results.
Have you heard of heavy metals? Yeah! I'm not talking about the heavy metals in the junkyard. I'm talking about the heavy metals that build up in your body. Heavy metals in your body can make you feel sluggish, fatigued, and just plain off. Why not try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com? Cleansing your body and making you feel great. Cleansing the inside of your body of intruders that sneak their way into you and set up an intruder camp. Life Change Tea helps remove unwanted intruder camps. Brew it, steep it, and drink in the results. Tastes great, so you can create a new health habit. Our tea loves to help people. It just needs the chance. So order yours today by logging on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our Life Change Super Strength Tea is waiting. This could be a beautiful relationship. Take charge of your health. Order at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
From the Kingdom of Arkansas, you are listening to Joe Root and Lighting the Void here on the Fringe FM.
Hey, this is Amalia from Know the Self Mystery School. I know that you are in the midst of massive change. We all are. This is the great turning, the time that we all decided to be here on the planet. Do you know why you came here to be a part of this crazy time? If not, I invite you to join my mystery school. I have a 9-week course called Activate Your Mission. And in this course, you're going to learn how to erect crystal clear boundaries so that you can hear that inner still voice that's going to guide your every move. Even if you're dealing with feeling weighed down by obligations and being enslaved to the system, this course is going to give you the tools you need to illuminate your shadow and awaken to your soul's mission. The moment you sign up to the school, you are going to be greeted by not only a group of soulful spiritual warriors, but you're also going to get some massive karmic clearings, and you're going to feel the energy. It's palpable. I hope you'll join me in the school where together we're going to unlock your divine mission.
Activate your mission by going to thefringe.fm/soul mission and put in the code word FRINGE and receive $50 off today.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. Thanks for joining us and staying with us through the top of the hour here. You can go ahead and call in if you want. If you want to ask our guests any questions at 1-800-588-0335. We got 4 lines. It's toll free from the U.S. or Canada, as well as you can contact the show at contact@lightingthevoid.com. You can text the show at 501-777-5631, or you can leave a message in the chat room. We also have, I don't know why you guys should use this more, but the shout out feature on the Fringe FM app, where you can just hit the record button and leave a shout out, and we'll play it over the air. Our guest tonight is Sean McCormick. We're talking about altered states of consciousness, how to expand your awareness, and how does that improve your life practically. And some of the big questions that I had in the beginning of the broadcast was, how can we access altered states of consciousness through the body? Which means, how do we do this without psychedelics or drugs? And I'm not saying it's bad, but it would be great if we didn't have to depend on that. We can naturally do it, right? Also, by turning off our physical senses, do we turn on our metaphysical awareness? And I would say, based on what you were telling me, Sean, and some of the stuff that you went through floating in these float tanks, you definitely turned on your metaphysical awareness, right? Like, you're in a whole nother realm for sure. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I mean, when you don't have any sensory input coming in, there's no sight, there's no sound, there's no gravity, because you're floating in this 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt water. So you're really you literally are detaching from your body. Your sense of bodily awareness is gone, you know? And in that way, you are just a floating ball of consciousness. You lose contact with your body. And in that way, what that does is you tap into, oftentimes it's like you begin to think about your day. You begin to think about what's for dinner. Then you start to think about like your relationships, and then you start to think about your purpose, and then you start to think about life, and then you start to think about death, and then like these layers of the onion start peeling off and peeling off and peeling off. And the longer you float, the more consistently you float, the more you have this time to contemplate and to think and to breathe and to just be, capital B, capital E, just be in this place, man, because our consciousness is infinite, and we are born and we die and we come back and we go through these cycles. We have all of this residue from these past lives that are culminating in this experience that we're aware of now. And when you tap into that through the technology of this flotation tank, then you get to play in the realm of the mystics. Like you get to do this hermetic work. And to your question, accessing these states of consciousness, going to a float center, paying for the thing, showering, getting the tank, like there's a lot more involved there. But you can also reach a really interesting state of consciousness just by doing some really specific breath work. So, doing sort of a Wim Hof style breath work where you're going 30 of those, like really full in and out breaths, 30 of those, and then an exhale all the way out and hold. Man, you're gonna shift. Like your back is gonna crack a little bit, and you're gonna feel a little bit lightheaded, and your ears are gonna ring. That ringing of the ears, is also associated with like a DMT flash, and also associated with these other altered states of consciousness. So there are lots of ways. Fasting is a really phenomenal way, really phenomenal. In fact, I'm just going to take 1 second to talk a little bit about fasting. We are overloaded, man. We are overloaded with stimuli. Too much food, too many options on Netflix, emails, relationships. We're
text
overloaded.
messages, everything.
The whole thing. For men, porn is a massive, 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 massive problem. And so we're just constantly inundated with all of these things that just spike our dopamine all the time, all day, every day. And we're never really recovering. We're not sleeping very well. And when you fast, and part of the protocols that I've written, the full moon reset is a protocol that's embedded in one of my online courses for a half sidereal cycle from new moon to full moon. You do a fast. You fast from media. You fast from shitty food like sugar and gluten. You fast from negative behaviors. You fast from negative self-talk. You fast from weed and booze and stuff like that. When you commit to that, in like 4 days, you're going to feel like a kid again. You're going to get back in touch with who you really are. That is it's a profound shift from just turning on Netflix because that's what you do after you go home from work and cracking a beer,
Yeah. So, that's interesting that you use the moon cycle with that, because there is something to that for sure. Like, because I definitely believe the moon is like attached to all of our consciousness. And look, if you study metaphysics or the occult or any of that stuff, they all say at the very depths of this thing that the moon is like the barrier of consciousness, right? It's that place that keeps consciousness and the tides of ebb and flow together. And it's also the barrier between us and everything else, right? So to tap into that ebb and flow of the moon like that, that's pretty sick that you did that, man. No, I mean, that's a good idea, actually. A really good idea. Because we do that in magic all the time, and people have been doing that stuff since the beginning of time, with the moon. So that's pretty cool. But you get some good results with that, don't you?
Incredible results. And again, like, we have to have these esoteric practices. We have to have this symbolic language that we can tap into, this sort of primal reference point. And the moon is just it's there. You fucking use it. Like, tap into it. Pull it down. It's in our DNA, and to use it to your advantage, and using it as a way to get more in touch with yourself, especially now, more than ever, to use it and to tap into to the true essence of who you are. You might as well use the moon. For sure. It works
for sure. And I think what a lot of people are interested in too, if they're not really interested in the moon or esoteric stuff, which I don't know why you wouldn't be. Like, you could keep a dream journal and just chart like where the moon is, and then go back and start reading your journal and go, holy hell, like you could really see it. But another thing I think people are interested in is like, because we've heard Graham Hancock talk about this stuff and lots of other people, is can entities come and go based on our states of consciousness? Can we get to a certain level of consciousness where we're actually meeting other things that we don't really know what they are? We just know that they're there,
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Emphatically. Yes. This has been, for me, this is a part of my spiritual teaching. This is, I have a couple of clair abilities that I've been cultivating for a long time with the help of a spiritual teacher, and have a very close connection with a handful of spirit guides that I work with every single day. I work with them in coaching practices. They're present with me here now. They love it when I talk about them, not because they're egotists, but just because they know that this is part of me making good on my soul contract. we can access them. I kind of talk about it this way, and I've got some resources, to refer people to, but think of the biodiversity on just this planet, right? From the little, bioluminescent fish at the bottom of the ocean in the midnight zone to like a soaring eagle to a snake in the ground to a little bug and a bacteria on a mushroom in the jungle, right? There's this crazy biodiversity. Well, that's the stuff that we can see and that we can measure. There is infinitely more of that diversity of life in the non-physical plane, right? So these are forest devas, these are entities, these are spirit guides. They're all accessible to us, but we're so fucking distracted. You have to bleep that out. Sorry.
It's fine. I'm getting to the point. It's late night, so I'm getting to the point where like whatever, man. So. What was one of the first times that you made contact with this? Like where you were like, oh, there's something else here for real.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my dream states, since I was a kid, I had this reoccurring dream where I was trapped in this church, and Skeletor from He-Man and all of his henchmen were trying to get me, and I had this dream like really consistently as a kid, and then in the very last moment, this like guy, this sort of grandfatherly figure, would like open up a door and like we would go out over and over and over and over. Well, I didn't realize until my 20s that was one of my guides, that was one of my spirit guides who I now call Bo. And the reason I call him Bo is because in a meditation session where, I'd been fasting and I wasn't drinking or smoking, I was really clean, and my spiritual practice was really dialed, and I was floating a lot. I had this experience where he came in, he sort of connected with me, and we had this collaboration. And I'm like, hey, you've been around here for a long time, and he's like, yep. And I said, well, you've got to be a spirit guide of mine. And he's like, yep. Now what?
Really? That's so cool.
Well, what do I call you? And he goes, you can call me whatever you want. And I'm like, well, you kind of look like the dude from The Big Lebowski.
Which one? Oh, yeah. Oh, the dude. Yeah, like Lebowski dude himself. Okay. That's cool.
And he's like, oh, okay. And I said, well, can I call you Bo? Like Bo, Bow, Bowski, Lebowski. Can I call you Bo? And he's like, if you want, yeah, that's fine. Call me Bo. So at that moment, then I created this connection in a deep state of meditation with one of subsequent spirit guides that now I work on connecting with every single night. I've had experiences, just in the astral plane, connecting with entities who have come in and sort of like introduced themselves and mingled a little bit and sort of wisped off again. Have
you ever slipped out of your body in a tank? Like slipped out?
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm saying like on a local, like, because I got into, everybody knows that's listening to the show, I got into Robert Monroe really big, and I started learning how to do that. And you get to that vibratory state where your body gets paralyzed. And I started doing those techniques, and I saw myself sleeping. Yeah. Like I was looking at myself, and I'm like, this is real. Like, this is really real. It's a trip once it happens, because you're like, I'm not dreaming.
Yeah.
What is this? This is real. You start I really freaked out,
Yeah.
And so, it's interesting though. Like I didn't run into any like entities or anything like that. I was so alone and isolated, but I was chill. Like I didn't care,
If you stayed on that long enough and were clear enough, and you were eating clean, and you were well slept, and were thinking, the right thoughts and saying the right mantras or invocations or whatever, and you made that a really regular practice, and you knew that if you turned 180 degrees the other way, instead of staring back down at yourself but turning out, your aperture would open, and you'd be exposed to the sort of soup that we're all swimming in.
Really?
Oh man, yeah. And the more you do it, the more capable you are of keeping your poop in a group, keeping it together in that moment where you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah, because
as soon as it's like, and then you're done. You're back in your body.
Yeah.
So through meditation, through breath work, you can teach yourself to keep it cool, stay in the moment, don't freak out.
Or don't give in to astonishment. It's like if you get too excited too, you'll go back to your body,
Right. So, I cruised up out of the building, out into Seattle, cruising through and looking at the buildings, and then reminding myself, okay, I need to turn, and then I turn, and then I'm just being approached by these entities coming my direction.
What?
And I know that if I ask them if they're good, they have to tell me, right? Lying isn't a thing up there, right? So if you ask an entity, "Are you good?" and they either say yes or they won't answer you. Some of them will just say no, fuck off, and then they beat it, right?
Yeah.
Other times they'll say, forget about that. Let's come on.
Let's try to steer you to something else.
Yeah. Let's roll. Come on, come with me. And other ones, other entities, whether it's guides or masters or angels or archangels or demons or whatever, they'll come. And if you can if you can establish that connection, you can invite them in and have that energetic exchange with them in the astral plane, you can learn a whole bunch in a really short period of time. And some of it you see and some of it you feel, and it's not a dream because it's a much different space.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I've never experienced that per se, but I did read about it in the Golden Dawn when I was studying magic. And, everybody's talking about the pentagram rituals and all this stuff. And it's, it's super evil. And then they make the Sabrina thing about it. But the thing is when you get past learning about the elements, because essentially that's what you're doing is reprogramming your consciousness to understand the elements. And when you get past that, the inner work of magic is all astral travel. That's all it is. It's all astral travel. And then when you meet entities like that, they actually have Egyptian signs that they do. They have Hebrew letters that they trace to test spirits and stuff. And it's all they're doing is prepping you for the inner realms. That's all. Yeah. And everybody's ooh, magic and wands. And it's that is exoteric. The real esoteric stuff is in the inner realms. That's what they were prepping you for,
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
It's trippy. And now that everybody's doing this conscious exploration through tanks and psychedelics and stuff, and I was reading things about magic, I'm well, they're talking about the same thing. The only thing is the magician is prepping it. They're prepping their minds and their bodies energetically and symbolically to deal with this realm. Is what they're doing.
You're doing that work. Yeah, you're doing that work. You're preparing your body, you're preparing your mind, you're preparing your environment, because your environment's really important, right? If your room is a mess and there's stuff everywhere, there's a certain if anybody's interested in this, go check out the book called Demystifying the Out-of-Body Experience from Luis Minero. And he talks incredible. If you do exactly what the book says to do, you will project. You will have out-of-body experiences. And I've referred lots of different people to that book. The key is to be in control of your energy and be able to move your body and oscillate it up and down all day long, at the grocery store, doing your work, cooking dinner, being able to control and manage that energy that you have inside of you. You said magician, and I grabbed my tarot deck, my 7-year-old.
The Robin Wood tarot, I like it. Yes.
The Robin Wood tarot with the magician with the elk horns. My 7-year-old son found my deck actually yesterday and grabbed it. I started to do some tarot, and the first card he pulled was the magician in his very first little experience with the tarot.
Oh yeah,
he pulled the magician card. So
wouldn't a child pull that card? Because they haven't learned all the stuff of the world that's made them not the magician, Exactly. When you're a child, you're a magician, right? You can see and do all this stuff, and then the world comes in and screws you all up, and then you got to fix it again.
And back to, it makes my point again, right? We're inundated by all of this stuff, culture, Terrence McKenna is one of my all-time favorite, people in the world. And he has this quote that's, culture is not your friend.
Right. Yeah.
It sticks with you. The fact that the mechanisms of who you're supposed to be in culture, it's so tiresome. It drains you. It takes you away from that childlike ability to connect with things,
Yeah, look what's going on now. I mean, if this is like an evidence of how culture is not your friend, all you got to do is turn on the TV and see how crazy we're acting right now.
Yeah,
and the stuff we believe.
And a moment later, you turn it off and start meditating and, fast, skipping breakfast, walking outside barefoot, breathing through your nose, drinking really clean water, writing down your thoughts. Like, these are all free things that you can do to begin to get back to your core, to get back to the best version of yourself.
It's insane too. Like, to think about that. Because the more I've studied magic, I got into it. Most people get into magic when it's sad, but they get into it when they are like at rock bottom. They don't have any power left in their life, right? And so they're like, well, it's magic. Why not try it? But then you really start learning, like, whoa, there's like, everything's programmed. Like, I'm symbolically programmed. There's this NLP stuff going on. There's these constant repeating phrases that I'm saying to myself in my head that are like creating my reality. And then you start doing little experiments to see if it's real, and you're like, holy hell, it's real. And then everything changes. And you're like, what? I can get out of body? So if you can do this stuff and then like get out of body, why are we like, oh man, we're never going to beat the government, or we're never going to do this? Dude, you can turn into a ghost and manifest your life. Don't tell me that the government's going to hold you down.
Yeah, right? Exactly. It's empowering. Yeah. I mean, when you realize that you're in control of yourself and that you literally have the ability to manifest things in your life. Like, these are some of the, in the work that I do as a coach, some of it is fairly like pedestrian, it's practical, it's behavioral changes, it's attitude changes, it's goal setting, it's lifestyle modifications. So like, that's like the sort of the basic stuff. But below all of that is the good stuff, is the wonder and magic that we all have, that we all can access into. And I'm just creating I'm giving people a different way of looking at themselves to be able to tap into that. Because if you decided tomorrow that you're going to move to Thailand and you're going to live like a king on, $50 a day, and you're going to write a novel, like, you could do that.
Yeah,
like,
you can.
No one is stopping you from doing that.
Yeah.
Not your mom, not your boyfriend. You bring your dog, but like, you can do that. I think we forget that we can make these choices, we can make these changes in our lives, and we need to find ways to empower ourselves.
The biggest one for me was like, and I had a kid, and I was working a job that like I hated, dude. It was crushing my soul, and it was before I got into podcasting. And I was like, oh, I'm paying child support. I don't have custody of my kid yet. I get to see him every now and then. I go to this job that I hate, basically to barely pay rent, pay child support, and get by, so I can get a 401k when I'm 70, maybe. And it was like crushing my soul, man. And I finally, one day, I just couldn't do it anymore. I didn't care if people said I was a bad person, father. I don't care. I'm dying on the inside. And I even talked to my son. I said, look, I'm going to go after something here. And I promise you, I have this feeling that I'm still going to be able to take care of you. Right? And my son was like, do it. You know? Yeah, he was like, what are you waiting on? He's like, I want you to be happy. I said, but I might have to be able to move out of this nice house into something, make a little sacrifice, but I'm going to be way more happy. And we're going to, and it was nothing, man. It wasn't what everybody had me thinking it was going to be. It wasn't this big travesty, or I was going to be out on the streets, or a deadbeat dad, or anything like that. Like, I took care of my kid, actually more than I was taking care of him before, even monetarily. It was crazy. It's all because I focused my mind on what I wanted to do. And I know it sounds completely wackadoo to some people, but things just started happening for me that kept me moving.
Yes. Yes, when you decide to take control of your life, when you decide to make a change that you feel good about, you suddenly have all this extra energy, like you have all this drive, you have more energy, you have a fresh perspective, you're nicer to people, you're better to be around, and then opportunities come to you. And then some of those opportunities pan out, some of them don't, but then you get to like you're then in the flow, you're in the right vibration to create the life that you want. And that's not an easy thing to do, like what you've done and what you did.
No, I had to make some big sacrifices, but I was way happier,
Right.
But here's the thing, like, what would you say? You say, well, let's go over worst case scenario. Let's be real here.
Right.
If you go out and you try to do this and it doesn't work, you can go back to the things that you hate to do, right? Mm-hmm. You can go back and work a job. You can go back and, and when you're at a job for a long time, they make you think it's the only thing. It's like they have this thing on you, man, where it's like the only way you can make money, and it's everything. And you could walk out that door and walk across the street, make a phone call, get on the internet, and literally probably get another job just like that if you wanted to, But they got this weird hold on you, this weird program that's like, no, you're stuck here. We want all of your energy. And you're only going to get paid this much. And if you're a good person and you really try hard, we might give you another quarter. Mm-hmm. I mean, how does that make your soul feel on the inside? Think about it. It didn't make mine feel good. You know?
It begins when we're kids, it's this process of like, follow the rules, color inside the lines, do what you're told, be obedient, eat this, drink this, watch this, pay attention. Now repeat it back to me. And that's not that's not the best of us. That's not the essence of who we are. It's not who we're meant to be.
I say sometimes the best thing you can do for your kids is just leave them alone sometimes.
For sure.
Leave them alone, right? Like, my son taught himself to do all kinds of things. He was like, aren't you going to do this for him? No, I'll set the example. And then he's like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just doing this. And then he wants to do it. And that's all it was. It's like, let him make that decision. But I'm not telling people how to live their lives or parent their kids, because obviously it scares the hell out of people to quit their jobs and do this, all the stuff. But I was so influenced by spirit that I thought, I'd literally lived with God my entire life. I've seen how this stuff works, how things just kind of fall in front of you. Whether you choose them or not, that's up to you, But did you learn any of like what we're talking about now when you were going through these states of consciousness, like through your guides or anything? Or did they give you hints or talk about synchronicities, or did they guide you? How did they guide you, so to speak?
Yeah. So oftentimes when there's a practical decision for me to make in my life, business dealings, relationship dealings, I will ask them for help. You can't get help unless you ask for it. Mm-hmm. People, and that goes for everybody. A mantra of mine in coaching is ask for what you need and give what you can. Right. So if you're not asking for help, how are you going to get the guidance? So through, I got sued by my original business partner. And he was coming after everything. It was totally fucked. It was really messed
bad
up.
Deal,
it was a really bad deal, and I should have known, but it was a really yucky deal.
Your intuition had been talking to you the whole time a little bit, hadn't it?
My wife was talking to me the whole time. She's like, something's not right about this guy. Something's not right about this guy. Like she knew. And I believe that the process that I had to go through in that case was part of my lessons I needed to learn about my self-worth, about standing up for myself, etc. But I would, every night I would say like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this situation. And the way that my clear abilities are cognizance and sentience. And so I don't get I don't hear things. I did in the tank that one day, but I don't hear things or see things. So it's, it's not clairaudience, which is hearing. It's not clairvoyance, which is seeing. I sense things and know things. So I will ask a question and then I will really quickly get the answer back. So through repetitive practice over and over and over, and going to, calling on, invoking my guides, who kind of fill different roles. So I have 4 that are present, that I work with. I may have more, but these are the 4 that I, Bo is about knowledge. So Bo helps me like make good decisions. Bo helps me understand sort of higher level concepts. I have another guide. I still don't know what he's doing, and he won't talk. He's just sort of around. His name is Ishem. I don't know what Ishem is. I've done tons of research. I still can't find any reference to the name Ishem in any sort of like esoteric texts. I think he's just training to be a guide.
You got 4 guides.
4. So Bo and Ishem. Ishem hasn't really contributed much to me. And then I have Manuel. And Manuel is like a protector. So like he helps fortify when I'm feeling low, when I'm feeling sort of vulnerable. Like he builds me up, and I'll talk to Manuel about like, how do I be assertive in this situation? How can I move the needle?
Right.
And then Miriam is a female presence, and she's all about organization. So she helps me like if I can't think of the thing, or if I can't reference the thing, or if I've lost something in my house, I will call Miriam, and I will connect with her and say, in gratitude, with light, love, and truth, Miriam, I really need to I
need your help.
Get some things organized here. Like, please, help me strategize and organize. And she'll say, okay, well, pull out the whiteboard, write that shit down. Did you think of this? Did you think of that? And I sort of like get this, like I tune into that frequency with her, and she'll help me organize things in my life. And lo and behold, the more that I do that, the more that I make that a regular practice, like opportunities come to me, things that I'm not really trying to bring into my life.
But you're talking to your spirits. And I bet you those 4 guides kind of correspond with the certain elements or aspects of yourself, right? If you think about the microcosmic star. And then like I went into past life regression with Daniel Alexa, and actually had a group of 4 people that I was a part of, that I felt whole. I couldn't explain it, and I was listening to myself explain it again. I felt whole with them when we were together, but not when we separated. And I was like, what is this? I couldn't explain it as I was going through it,
Wow. Yeah.
And it's so trippy to hear you talk about that, like how you had 4 guides. Like that is a trip.
Yeah.
Another synchro, I think, man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I just don't know who they are. Like I don't know their names or anything, but I want to find out. That'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
But like some people are going to say that we're batshit crazy, right? Because you're talking to the voices in your head. You have multiple personality disorders, stuff like that, right? But
I've been called worse.
But even Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, some of the most successful people in the world. I don't know if it was Napoleon Hill or Dale Carnegie, but one of them said when they had to make a big decision, they would call a meeting, and they would bring these people that they had, whether it's a projection or not, it doesn't matter to me. These people that they looked up at the table, and each person at the table gave them advice, and they were all different types of personalities like you were talking about. And this guy that was like one of the most successful people in the world, that's how he dealt with problems, right?
Yeah.
He just had a council meeting with himself and these people,
That sounds eerily familiar. Yeah. I mean, again, to your point, like whether it's a figment of your imagination, whether it's a projection, whether it's, Archangel Michael or Archangel Raphael or Ascended Master Saint Germain or Kuthumi that are actually sitting at the table with you, helping you like plan out your next podcasts or, go into the next business dealing or whatever. Whether it is that or some mechanism that you've created in your mind, that's not as important to define as whether or not it helps you. If you get hung up on definitions, if you get sort of stuck to, well, what is this really? Like, I really need to know. Like, am I losing it? Am I making this stuff up? Then you're missing the point a little bit. And the imagination, the dream states and imagination states, the imaginal realm is like a pathway into these higher levels of consciousness, these connections with these non-physical entities. You know, you say like, well, I must have imagined that. You know, the thing in the float tank where I was, you know, I found out the day before that, you know, the voice in my head, like I could have easily have imagined that, but through lots of practice, like I know that I didn't. That didn't.
Yeah,
wasn't my voice.
it was something, right? Yeah,
it didn't come from me, but I do this stuff all the time. Like I do this stuff every day, and now it's just become part of who I am and what I do. And the cool part is that the more that I do this stuff, the more it helps me be better at what I do. I'm a better coach. I make more money. I help more people. You know, you know, my podcast begins to grow. I attract opportunities, and it's like, well, I'm just going to keep doing this because I have assistant. I am being helped. I am being guided.
And so it really doesn't matter. You know, like what if Socrates was one of the people that, you know, philosophy, like philosophers and the Stoics are some of the smartest people. You hear people quoting them all the time. But Socrates talked to a daemon in his head all the time, right?
Right.
You know, and I don't know if that, I mean, I don't know, like you say, I don't know if it's real. I don't care how you define it. It's the same thing with magic. Like maybe we call it magic because it's a science that we don't understand yet, or it's a technology or something that we just haven't grasped yet. And that's all because mainstream science and all of the money going into mainstream science has everything to do with physical reality. Even the smallest particle of a particle, they're trying to like smash atoms together and figure all this stuff out. The moment mainstream science breaks into the metaphysical realm is like, okay, we got to study this, and really gets behind it, I think everything on this planet will change. That's what I think.
I totally agree. I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Dean Radin.
I've had him on the show before. Yeah.
Me too. And we talked about the, you know, praying over the chocolate, the chocolate that received the prayers was actually tasted better to this, you know, control group. Mm-hmm. There's when you're stuck in this materialist worldview, where everything must be measured and does the data support that, then you're missing all the richness. You know, like Descartes, right, the father of the scientific method, came up with the scientific method through a visitation of an angel. The angel came to him while he was sleeping and said, the whole of the universe will be, the quote is like, the whole of the universe will be found through mathematics. And that was the beginning of the scientific, through numbers or something like that. And he writes in he wrote it. He's like, I was visited by an angel tonight. The angel told me, you know, all of the universe can be, you know, explained through numbers. And then he came up with the scientific method. So like even the basis of the scientific method was an angelic visitation. It's got to make you think, right?
Yeah, well, it does. And, you know, it's funny you say that because there's a guy that wrote a book about numbers and gematria, how they can literally like decode everything once they get to studying gematria, and they really can decode everything. Then you look at the Kabbalistic tree of life, and there's these Sephirah that kind of correspond with everything. Then you get into the Hebrew, like this deep thing where like 10's the number of perfection, and then they show the number on hands and like how the human body is perfected through numbers, and how everything that manifests from spirit comes out in the golden spiral is perfected through numbers. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. You know, there is something to this numbers thing. And then I had like this big epiphany one time, this awakening, because it's like, you know, you get downloads all the time. It's like as above, so below type thing. So everything is charge and discharge. Like Napoleon Hill wrote this book about Conversations with the Devil, right? Where he beat the devil. And the devil was trying to tell him that all I do is get people in hypnotic rhythm, right? Whether it's smoking, it's all charge and discharge, you know, because that's what we do. We sleep, we wake, charge, discharge. Think about this: binary, on, off. We eat, we digest. Everything we do is charge and discharge. And then we figured out this information system too. Ones and zeros, on, off. You know, and now we figured out how to transfer it through light, fiber optic cables. Now, this is a small microcosmic law that we're using on this planet in a fractal way that works in the universe in a much bigger way, right? And then the Kabbalistic tree shows that with the first two Sephirah that come down. You got charge, which is chokma, which is just force. And then you got the second Sephirah, which is like Bina, which is the female energy or negative. So you got positive, negative, which is form, right? So you got one that makes the energy and the other one that forms the stuff with the energy. And then you have the first triad. And it's like they map the universe out with this thing. But when you get down into all of it, it's nothing but numbers. That's all it is. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that, man. I just learned some stuff there. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. It's, we have to stay curious about it. You know, we have to stay open. And man, I need to process some of what you just said. Sorry. I'll wait for your next question.
I got all these like stuff that goes through my mind though when I think about some of the stuff you're saying too, because it is like nothing but numbers. And you know, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now if we didn't. And the whole point to the beginning of the show is like, if we didn't take the steps to expand our consciousness, not just because we want to like experience cool stuff, but for a practical reason too in our lives, you know, so that we can help others, so that we can change this place. And I don't think we're going to change this place. I don't care how practical people get without first like opening this thing up here in our heads, you know?
Yeah.
I think the president, and I've heard, you know, I know you've heard this, but I think if you're going to like be a leader of anything in the government, you should have to drop acid or something. There's no way I want you to like lead anything without doing that, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
5 dried grams. Yeah. And then we'll talk. Then we'll see if you're fit for it.
Yeah. Well, the float tank is a simple thing though, right? Like it's a simple thing that we figured out how to do, and that you have a thriving business doing that. Like, did you have a guide tell you to do that, or is it just like I'm sure you had something inside you tell you to go for it.
Well, I just had the same sort of experience that you had, which is like I didn't like what I was doing. I didn't feel comfortable. I wanted to do something that was more meaningful, and it was around that time that I started to really get more disciplined with my spiritual practice and with connection with my guides. You know, that's when I first found my teacher, my spiritual teacher, who she calls herself a spiritual midwife. She channels masters and guides and angels, and the way that it came to me to do this business was I was in a place where I was feeling pretty depressed. It was in a really great job. Well, I was a spiritual rut. Like I was in a really good job, and I was making good money, and I fucking hated it.
Yeah.
I was so bored, and it felt yucky, just and I was drinking too much, and I was smoking too much, and I was, you know, staying up too late, and you know, spending too much money at the bar, and just like, is this I was just in this dark place, and I sort of caught myself like all this loathing happening over and over, and I said, you know, I'm just gonna take a step back. I'm gonna get back into my meditation. I'm gonna get back into like drinking water and walking, and like just small incremental changes, like nothing huge.
Yeah.
But as soon as I started to do that and started to meditate again, I started to feel the presence of Bo again. I started to feel this thing with me, this presence in my meditations with me. Like I wasn't just there alone. And shortly after that, I sought out my teacher, because I wanted to know, like, I needed tools. I needed some reference. And when I started to work with her, she sort of taught me these techniques to get more in touch with them, to tune into that frequency, to connect with these guides. And it was through this, like I was in this low spot. That's when things started to change, and then I just sort of opened up to like what's the business that's right for me, right? Like I was thinking about, you know, opening a juice shop in Hawaii, right? Cool. I was going to go teach English in Japan. You know, I was toying around with all these different ideas, and I had floated in a guy's float tank, actually 7 years prior. And I had only done it one time. I floated in some guy's basement float tank at his house. it was such a big experience for me. I actually had an out-of-body experience that first time that I sort of like, it shook me, and I didn't really think about it again. But as soon as I started to tap back into my practice with my guides, tap into my spiritual practice, in my meditation, again, grounding, being in nature, being surrounded by nature, then I started to pick back up on the things that I had forgotten about, that were now relevant to me. And then I just sort of like rolled the dice on this crazy business idea to open a freaking float center. Like that was,
but look what happened. Yeah, that's amazing, because you followed your soul.
Experience. I willed it, right? I willed it. I wanted it bad enough. I had no business experience. I didn't know how to keep, books and a ledger and a P&L and all this business stuff
either. But,
zero, like none. I just knew that I wanted this really bad, and I could figure it out as I went. So I built the website, and I bootstrapped the finances, and we picked out the float tanks and all this stuff. So it's like when you get back to the basics, when you sort of shake off the cobwebs and slow down and breathe through your nose and like do all these sorts of basic things, like whoa, like little things kind of come back into alignment, and little things that you may have forgotten about that were really important to you kind of come back into your frame of consciousness again with in this case aided by Bo.
And how disconnected did you feel before when you got to that state? It does feel disconnected. When I say disconnected, like there's this idea of hell, heaven and hell. And I think hell is disconnected from your own spirit in a way that you've given into the world so much, or you're just not living what your soul's trying to get you to do so much that you get to that place where you're depressed or drinking, or you start asking yourself, like, is this it? Is this it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's hell to me.
That question alone, and a lot of us, I mean, many of my clients have that question. Like, is this it?
Yeah.
Is this all there is? And I mean, is this what do I have to look forward to this job I don't like and Netflix at night? Is that it? Like, yeah. Is that it?
Right.
The answer is no. But when you numb out and numb out and numb out and don't get enough sleep and numb out with food and porn and bunch of stuff that doesn't actually build you up, then the deeper that hole gets, you're just digging it, and you're just digging deeper and deeper. And again, like there's ways to get out of that. There's ways to get back in touch. And for me, it was like I was going too fast. Like I'm a high energy guy. Anybody's listening is like, this guy's whoa. Yeah. I'm high energy. So like I was drinking fast, hard. Yeah. I was smoking hard, fast. I was going to shows and partying, and it was like this isn't I can't do this. This isn't sustainable for me, and this doesn't feel right. I'm not in alignment with this thing. I got to slow down, and I know a lot of people are kind of feeling that too. A lot of people feel that way. They just don't know where to start.
There's so many people, and that's probably the last question I'll ask you too, because we definitely went through a lot of stuff about altered states of consciousness, right, and what it can do for you. That's really cool too. But I get asked this question a lot too. Like, I'm trying to find my soul purpose or my life purpose, and it's almost like people are seeking an answer for that, and yet I don't know the answer for that for myself. But what I always tell people is like, start following whatever's inside you and let it lead you to where you need to go, and you'll get there. Like, don't try to get the answer before you move. Yeah. Just go,
Yeah.
And then you'll get there, that's,
yeah.
I don't know if you would agree with that or not, but
I do agree with that. You have to start somewhere. You have to start motion, right? You have to start with some, like you said, like even the motion, we have our videos on, so we're looking at each other. Yeah. The motion you made with your hand was like this punching motion, this fist that's like, I got to go do a thing. I got to move something forward. Like, it will come from the movement. It doesn't like, hey, you're supposed to be a psychiatrist. That's what you're supposed to do. It doesn't happen like that. Right. And it especially doesn't happen while you're watching, keeping up with the Kardashians. It doesn't happen there. It doesn't. It's the first thing I thought of. It doesn't happen while you're, eating Jack in the Box. It doesn't happen while you're 5 beers deep on a Sunday watching football. It doesn't happen then. What happens is, as you begin to move, as you begin to like simplify again, like fast from all of the stuff that's distracting you, get back to baselines, and then like go for walks and write some ideas down in a journal and talk to a friend and go do the things that you really have fun with. Listen to the music that you love, get back in touch with that stuff. And through that sort of behavioral change, then these notions come to you. The things that you like intuitively know that you like and that you want to do, that will be the guide, the inroad toward the next steps. And so it's like, oh, maybe I need to go back to school, or, oh, maybe I need to maybe I want to learn how to play the guitar. Like, oh, maybe I need to call, my ex-girlfriend from high school, or, oh,
and then
maybe
stuff starts showing up for you.
Things start to hit.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're on this path to figuring out what it is. That's
right.
That's really cool. See, and that's what a life coach does, I think, is they keep you on that path. Like you have on your website, it says, look, I'm not going to be your buddy to drink with on the weekends. And I'm not really like going to try to be your best friend, but I am here to keep you accountable and help you get what you want. Right. Like, that's what it is. You need someone to like get your energy lined up with what it's actually trying to do, Right. So, right. That's pretty cool, man. And we got to roll out of here. But before we do, I had a blast talking to you. So please, plug away. Like, how can everybody follow you, find you? Like, please.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation too, Joe. This is such a cool thing for me. I know it's late where you are. It's late where I'm at. So a couple of things. You can go to the website, SeanMcCormick.com, SeanMcCormick, SeanMcCormick.com. You can get fill out a contact form and tell me the certain areas of your life that you're interested in working on. Is it your finances? Is it your family? Is it your health? Let me know. The other thing that you can do is you can check out my online course, which is called The Real You. It is a 30 video course that talks a lot of practical tools that you can do to get on the road to the life that you want. You can also go to, I'll keep plugging. Yeah. You can go to the stopmethod.com, stopmethod.com. It's a neurolinguistic programming tool that I've been working with and developing with my clients for a long time to help stop negative emotions. It works like crazy. It works so well. You can go check that out. And then also I have a podcast myself. It's called the Optimal Performance Podcast. It's one of the longest running, biohacking and performance podcasts in the world, from gut health to nutrition to biohacking devices and all things like getting some pep in your step and being your best. This has been really great. I invite all of you listeners, whether you jive with some of what I'm saying or all of it, I really want to hear from you. Reach out to me. Just say what's up. Send me an email, Sean@SeanMcCormick.com, and just say, hey, I wanted to think about this one thing. I will reply, I promise.
And go visit one of the float labs too. You got some of those. Yeah. Yeah.
Go to flotationlocations.com, and then that's the best way to find a float center near wherever you are.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again for coming on the broadcast. It was good having you on here. This was a blast.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe. This is good.
And we'll put all the show notes and everything into the archives, guys. We'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same channel. Brian Gable's coming up with the Secret Teachings. Good night, y'all.